How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Just became a grandparent in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm very excited, yeah.
Mazel.
Good. Thank you very much.
I'll throw a mazel at you. That's the first mazel of the show, by the way.
Hey, there you go. I'm glad. I feel honored that I am the recipient.
Very good. All right, let's get into some kind of. They're not weird, but I am curious your thoughts. We know the Big 12 has explored private equity. It's actually a company in Luxembourg, whatever, that is talking about investing, a couple $100 million in the Big 12. Do you think that's something the ACC should explore?
I don't think it's something anybody should explore in college athletics, because private equity is only interested in the bottom line and not the quality of the product. I give you the newspaper industry as
yes,
as an example, or Red Lobster, or things like that. And the other thing too is you're going to get this money up front, but the bill is going to come due eventually. And I think this is a very short-term solution, and it's a solution that is really fraught with so many speed bumps and so many dangerous things. I think it's something that they really need to steer clear from. I don't think they're going to. I think that this is the way of the future, but I think that there are going to be some people that live to regret it.
All right, so I just want to go back to, because I agree with you. It is there are way too many serious consequences for going down this road. But when you said private equity only cares about the bottom line, all I could think of was, how does that differ from major college sports?
Good point. The problem is that they are worried about the bottom line, but they're also worried about getting into the playoff, winning championships. I mean,
right.
I give you Florida State. I mean, they're worried about the bottom line, but the reason they're worried about the bottom line is because they feel that is necessary for them to be able to compete on the field. And I think that the difference is that private equity does care that much about the bottom line, but they could care less about what happens on the field as long as the bottom line comes up with a lot of black numbers.
Well, that is true, but theoretically those two would go hand in hand. Like I have.
So, I mean, does a big bankroll automatically?
No. I said theoretically.
Oh, okay.
Theoretically, it does, and so I have yet to be convinced, because if the SEC and the Big 12, I'm sorry, I keep saying Big 12, Big 10, which has 16 teams, 18 teams, I don't know how many
18,
teams,
I think,
18 teams. If the SEC and the Big 18 weren't doling out, and I'm kind of kicking it forward a little bit here, close to $100 million, give or take, per school in each of those two leagues, and they were just doling out a normal number like $60 million, well, there wouldn't be reason really for Florida State or Clemson or potentially North Carolina to be kvetching about their $47 million pittance, because it would be within the ballpark, right?
Correct.
So they would make do with this. But because those two numbers are about to be so bloated, it has created a scenario in their minds that we just can't compete. And I just don't understand how those two things really should equate. I just don't get, because my neighbor has an 80-foot yacht that, well, my 40-foot yacht doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, and like I said before, give a call up to the folks at the University of Nebraska and ask them how that Big Ten disparity is working, and how that equates to success on the playing field. Because as I can tell, they weren't in the NCAA tournament in any of the three major sports. So what are they doing with the money then?
Yeah, that's where we get into the real problem with college sports is wasting the money, right? You spend the money because you have to, as opposed to actually spending the money that actually helps you win. All right, so you and I basically agree on this.
How many coaches are on the payroll at, say, the University of Louisville right now.
Oh, how about, well, yes, but how about all of the analysts, I'll use air quotes here, at the University of Alabama? At least that was the case when Nick Saban was the coach. If you were fired from your job as a head coach somewhere, he would bring you on as an analyst. He would sort of allow you to rehabilitate yourself.
At least he's getting bang for his buck there because
right.
He's bought and paid for ESPN too. So all they have to do is show up, and their losses get hey, they're good losses. So which is better than a good win apparently.
Brett Friedlander joining us, ACC columnist, SaturdayRoad.com. Before we get to why you hate Barry Bonds, this is just a fun part of the conversation from yesterday. You and I were going back and forth a little bit on social media, but I want to bring it up anyway because I think it's fun.
Okay.
I'd be okay with a title sponsor for ACC football. It doesn't bring in nearly as much money, but just like you slap a naming rights sponsor on your stadium, there's nothing that would stop the ACC from selling naming rights to ACC football or basketball or lacrosse or bowling or fishing or whatever, right?
Absolutely. And let's face it, the ACC isn't really the Atlantic Coast Conference anymore, so why not? and like you mentioned, the Big Ten has 18 teams, so why even bother with Big Ten? I mean, every bowl game has got a sponsor. Yeah. Every golf tournament, that's just every stadium, and even though it changes every other year, I mean, why not?
You can change it every year. You can change it every month.
Exactly. So I mean, but why not? I mean, if it helps, hey, listen, if it helps keep the revenue disparity, in like you said, in the ballpark, and keeps the folks at Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and whoever else a little bit more happy or a little less disgruntled, why not?
I agree. I think we should explore. Everything should be on the table. And I believe, even though you and I are basically against it for I think smart reasons, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see private equity enter into the college sports arena. I'll be shocked if the Big 12 doesn't end up that route. Are you ready for a field of 72 or 76 or whatever the number is? I just read about it today. Ross Dellinger wrote a piece. They are proposing it to the Division I commissioners. You fired up for it?
No, yeah, because this way we can get more Virginia, Colorado State excitement there in that first four, right? I mean, it's not gonna kill the tournament because the tournament is the tournament, but it is definitely going to take something out of it, and it's going to water down the competition. And what you're going to get is the idea is that they're going to try to sell. This gives the little guy more of a chance. Oh
no, it doesn't.
Well, all I offer you is example, Exhibit A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. The University of Florida baseball team, right? You sneak them into the tournament at 3 games over 500 because they were underachievers during the regular season, and all of a sudden they figure out, it's time to flip the switch.
Right.
And there they are in the College World Series, because that's what's going to happen there too.
Ole Miss,
you're going to get
right. Didn't Ole Miss do that? They were like the last team in, and then won it a few years ago.
Yes, they did 2 years ago, and so that's what you're going to get in basketball here. You're not going to get the cute Loyola of Chicago or VCU or going to the Final Four as more. What you're going to get is you're going to get a team that finished 13-17 in the SEC or the ACC or whatever, and there you have it. Whatever. Again, it's a money grab, and it's going to happen whether you like it or not, and I don't like it, but you might as well get used to it because it's coming.
All right, Brett Friedlander, ACC columnist, SaturdayRoad.com. And yesterday, and for the record, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I disagree with you to a point. Okay, just before we even bring up the subject of the next Willie Mays. Because for years, and this is the way I described, this is the greatness of Willie Mays. Roughly 50 some odd years after his retirement, and really 55 years after he was at the height of his powers until really the late 60s. We're still looking for the next Willie Mays. Yeah. And I know we thought it was Ken Griffey, but the second half of Ken Griffey Jr.'s career wasn't the same. We were still looking for the next Willie Mays. I submitted yesterday that guy really was Barry Bonds, unless you want to devalue all of it based on Balco, which is everybody's right, and I understand it because I don't like what Barry Bonds did in terms of the impact and the stain that left on the numbers. I don't think it stained the game. I think it stained the numbers of the game. You say no. What say you?
Well, first of all, for the sake of full disclosure, I grew up in Atlanta, and Hank Aaron was one of my childhood heroes.
Yep.
So, to me, Hank Aaron is still the legitimate home run king, so there's some bias there. So
you and Bud Selig are the same on that.
But here's the thing, and the way you presented it, I'm going to agree with you more than disagree with you.
Oh, my gosh.
Because the pre-Balco Barry Bonds was very similar and was heading in that direction of Willie Mays, a five-tool player who just made you go, wow, whether he was hitting, whether he was on the bases, whether he was running down a fly ball, or whether he was, well, maybe not throwing because
he didn't have a great arm.
He let Sid Bream get home. Anyway.
That is true. That's a stain.
Yes. I mean, Bream was running with a refrigerator tied to his back, and he still scored. But anyway, I digress. So in that respect, I think Barry Bonds is the most legitimate comparison to Willie Mays pre-Balco. Where I have a problem was the conversation was, now that Willie Mays is gone, who is the greatest living ball player?
Right.
And I will vehemently disagree with anyone who suggested it's Bonds, because while the pre-Balco Bonds was really good and bordering on great, he's still, there's still that he's a cheat. Yep. And so I have a problem with that. And so there you go.
I see, again, agree with more than you think, because I do think that there was nobody that is going to look, I also said this yesterday, that there are a lot of people who will ignore what Bonds did to his own reputation and to the numbers that he ultimately compiled based on steroids. There are a lot of people who will ignore it, because, man, what we saw on the field it was
entertaining.
What Barry Bonds made a mockery. It became almost too easy for Barry Bonds.
It's not like he was the only one who was doing it either.
No, that is true. So somebody did come at me like, I bet you think Lance Armstrong was the best cyclist too. I'm like, hell yeah, I did. Because in a sport where everybody was doping, and I always argued that Lance Armstrong should have just gone, yeah, I did it. Everybody was doing it. I just was better at cycling than them while I was doping. That's what I argued then.
If you want to say that Bonds is the greatest living ball player with an asterisk, I'm okay with that. But your earlier question was really an interesting one as to who's the next Willie Mays. And, about a month ago, I might have said Ronald Acuna. But he's heading in the same direction as Ken Griffey Jr. with the injuries. You never know how that's going to affect his career. But right now, I would say that Ellie De La Cruz with the Reds is probably the closest thing, and he's still an embryo as far as his career is concerned.
No question. Oh wow, we had Mazel and embryo in the same interview. That is hysterical.
And Fetch.
And Fetch, right? Brett Friedlander.
And you also let me fell about my granddaughter.
Thank you very much. Look at this. I said this earlier. I mean, if you want to hide a curse or just add a little flavor, just throw in some Yiddish. It always works. Brett Friedlander, ACC Saturday Road columnist. I appreciate your time, my man. I'll talk to you soon.
Always a pleasure, Adam. Thanks.
All right, thanks, man.